Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. Today I'm watching Why Isn't Cycling Normal in London by Mapman. Now this video is over 7 years old. However, given how with all the other videos I've watched, nothing has changed in London about those other topics like the motorways, you know, stuff like that. I'm assuming this is still the same and this also hasn't changed. Not sure why cycling isn't normal in London. I guess people just don't want to ride bikes. So let's check it out.
Me? Cycle in London? No, I'll die.
You've got to be stark raving mad to cycle in London.
I would cycle, but there were too many roads.
I've tried cycling once, but there was a bus on the other side of the road. Ah!
What's wrong with these people?
Okay.
Cycling is good exercise, it's free, it's fun, you can change your route as you please, you can park anywhere, it's usually faster than the bus, sometimes faster than the tube, and yet for some reason, cyclists in London are still a rare and strange breed. So, why isn't cycling normal in London? Is it to do with the way the streets were built? Or is it something embedded in our culture? Or is it a complicated and nuanced mixture of the two combined with several other surprisingly interesting factors that will take about 10 minutes to discuss? Cycling infrastructure in London has been around longer than you might think. As far back as the 1930s, when hardly anyone drove, the wise town planners decreed that cars and bikes don't mix. New suburbs in Morden, Perivale and Romford were furnished with shiny, wide, segregated cycle tracks. The first of its kind was opened by Transport Minister Leslie Hoare-Belisha in 1934. But they weren't really used much.
Leslie
Cycling groups
Hoare-Belisha.
at the time hated these so-called cycle tracks. They were worried that they'd be forced to use
Last
them and
name
then
not
banned
great.
from regular roads. Indeed, that's exactly what Leslie Hoare-Belisha wanted, saying that cyclists were the most dangerous people on the road today. So a cycling revolution never came, but a new revolution was just around the corner.
Introducing the new car. Think you can't afford a car? Thanks to technology, the new car is more affordable than ever. You can afford the new car. With a new car, you can drive around in your new car. Do you like your new car?
I love my new car.
Okay, I think that's enough.
As cars became more affordable, the roads became more full of them. And so, the 1960s planners, in their finite wisdom, altered London's existing streets to make more room for cars, and cyclists were completely forgotten about. Historic Hyde Park Corner was turned into a massive, scary roundabout where every lane is the wrong lane.
Roads for cyclists.
Archway, Elephant and Castle, Waterloo, and Hammersmith. The Westway was built, and nearly all the 1930s suburban cycle tracks disappeared, some becoming lanes for cars, others becoming parking spaces. Unsurprisingly, over the next few decades, the number of cyclists in London plummeted. Ow! This terrifying video from about 1984 and a half, which believe it or not is trying to promote cycling in London, shows just how treacherous and horrible life on two wheels had become. It was cars won, cyclists dead. Meanwhile, in Europe,
I would hate to be driving a car with cyclists who are driving like that. That would suck.
Cities like Amsterdam, which in the 70s had similarly lethal roads to London, not to mention a few dead children, decided to do something brave. Over the next 3 decades, the historic streets were totally transformed to prioritise pedestrians and pedallers. Cars were banned from some streets, and new, segregated, wide, uninterrupted, smooth cycle paths were built in the lanes where people used to drive. Turning Amsterdam inside out wasn't easy, and it didn't happen overnight. But eventually, cycling became the normal, default way of getting around.
Eventually.
And cars that had to learn to wait their turn, keep out of the way, and go the long way round. Now that doesn't mean that the Dutch wait their turn, keep out of the way, and go the
So you could just go this short way, 350 meters.
long way round.
Instead, you have to go 2.3 kilometers with a car. Okay, that was not a good change. That was really bad.
Now that doesn't mean
Whoa, hey, well, what the hell is
to
that?
wait their turn, keep out of the way, and go the long way round.
Museum of Prostitution. Why is that a museum? What the fuck are the Dutch doing?
Now that doesn't mean that the Dutch are bike-mad cycling enthusiasts. That's a bit like saying that everyone in Britain is obsessed with vacuum cleaners just because everyone's got one. In Holland, the Netherlands, there's no such thing as a cyclist. These people are teachers, doctors, lawyers, students, systems analysts, chartered quantity surveyors and porn stars. So why didn't this happen in London? Actually, it's quite hard to say. Maybe it's because we Brits have always been overly attached to our cars. In the 80s, cars were a status symbol. Margaret Thatcher famously probably said,
A man over 30 who finds himself on a bus can count himself a failure.
This meant that politicians and planners who wanted to make cycling better always did so with their hands tied behind their back. They couldn't do anything to get in the way of our lovely cars. Another possible reason is the way London was run for so many years. After Thatcher abolished the GLC in 1986, cycle infrastructure and the like was provided by London's 32 bickering boroughs, so there was no one to provide a citywide shift in culture. But that would all change in the year 2000. For the first time, London had an assembly and a directly elected mayor with the power and budget to think big. Ken Livingstone and the newly formed Transport for London, or TfL,
I assume he didn't
had to
do
tackle
much.
London's chronic congestion and pesky pollution, and they saw that cycling could play a vital role. Although late to the party, with the right investment, London had the potential to become a cycling mecca just like Amsterdam. After all, it's got the same climate, it's flat, mostly, the streets are wide enough, and most journeys in London are a perfectly bikeable less than 2 miles. It was totally doable. They had to do it soon, and they had to do it now. Nearly more than 7 years later, Ken Livingstone stole an idea from Paris, the cycle hire scheme. Docking stations were to be planted all over central London, with bikes that were too heavy and conspicuous to want to steal, and anyone with a bank card and a pair of legs could hire them for a small fee. It took until 2010 for the scheme to finally get going, by which time London had a new mayor whose idea it wasn't, giving the scheme the misleading but memorable and durable nickname Boris Bikes. They were an instant smash, popular with locals and wobbly tourists alike.
So he just stole the idea?
That urban cycling wasn't just for lycra-clad
He took all the credit?
but for everybody. With so many new wibbly-wobblies on the road, it was more important than ever that London had safe streets to cycle on. And so, that very same year, along came the mayor's most boldest plan so far, the cycle superhighways. This was a new special type of bicycle motorway for commuters that was long distance, clearly labelled, and painted luminous bright blue to match the colour of Barclays, who was sponsoring the whole thing. 12 cycle superhighways were planned, numbered like hours on a clock, radiating out
planned,
from
so I'm guessing none of them were built?
The first to open in 2010 was CS7,
Oh no, they
which
are.
went over the underused Southwark Bridge, squiggled around Elephant and Castle, and followed the Northern Line all the way down to Collier's Wood. Next came CS2, which went east from Aldgate, through Whitechapel, and up to the future Olympic Park at Stratford. But were these superhighways any good? No. Although very well signposted in a lovely shade of blue, there was nothing to physically separate cyclists from passing cars, buses and lorries. Sometimes the blue paint would stop abruptly or merge with a bus lane or fill up with parked cars. Timid new cyclists, the very people this scheme was designed to make feel safe, didn't feel safe at all. More worryingly, new-ish and confident-ish cyclists were lulled into a false sense of security. They'd start on an easy bit, and then, when the blue paint ran out, splat. Venera Minakhmatova, a 24-year-old Russian businesswoman, was killed by a lorry at the notoriously inadequate Bow interchange, one of 5 cyclists to die.
There's barely any blue. Yeah, I wouldn't ride a bike in London. No way. This is a horrible way to do this. This sucks. I mean, I hate cyclists because whenever I'm driving in a car, it just sucks. Especially when they're on a high-speed road, like I'm going 90 kilometers per hour and suddenly there's a cyclist. Oh, there's cars coming from the other way. So now I have to slowly drive behind that cyclist on a high-speed road and wait for traffic to stop on the other side. And it usually doesn't. So I'm holding up traffic because of this stupid fucking cyclist. I hate them. They need separate roads. They should not be on the same roads as cars. Never. Because bikes and cars don't mix.
On the capital streets in just 2 weeks. It led to protests calling for the mayor and TfL to stop killing cyclists. A closer look at the original superhighway designs reveals that they were dangerously ill thought through. According to this map, CS11 was supposed to go up the very narrow Kilburn High Road.
It was probably just a publicity stunt. You know, false promises, the thing that politicians do all the time.
Where exactly was that meant to go? So, TfL went back to the drawing board and took it more seriously this time. The next generation of cycle superhighways from 2013 onwards was a massive improvement. Physically separated from traffic with features like dedicated traffic lights and floating bus stops, these were proper cycle paths.
That's how it should be.
Have these new superhighways been a success? Yes. Cycling on these routes has increased a whopping 60%. At rush hour, 60% of all journeys are bikes. They even have cycling traffic jams. It demonstrates quite demonstrably that if you build it, they will come. Spurred on by the success of the cycle superhighways, the city was starting to send itself cycling silly. Look! Torrington Place is closed to cars westbound. Look! Bank Junction is buses and bikes only on weekdays.
Look!
Camden are filling their streets with armadillos. Armadillos! We're even starting to correct our mistakes from the 60s, turning former big scary roundabouts into much safer, albeit confusing, two-way inside-out question-mark-shaped junctions. In Archway,
What?
Elephant and Castle, Waterloo, not Hammersmith though, it's too late for Hammersmith. So everybody's happy. Or are they? The cycling revolution has attracted criticism from some groups like...
Bad luck and you're out of time. But you did very well. You did the history, you did the superhighways, you even went to Amsterdam. But there's still so much more
What
to
is
talk
going
about.
on?
Will you come back for part 2?
Yes, I will.
Excellent. We look forward to it, don't we? See you after the break.
Hasn't even been 10 minutes yet. Well, I guess that will be in part 2. I can see why some people would be against this, but I don't know, I think it's a good change. Having cyclists have their own roads instead of driving where the cars are, definitely a really good change. Because cars and bikes don't mix, for many reasons. It seems unlike with a lot of the other stuff, they actually managed to make some changes with cyclists, with cycling, rather than just being completely incompetent and doing nothing about it. So yeah, I guess we'll see who was against this in the next video. So I hope you enjoyed. If you did, consider subscribing and leaving a like. If you're interested, why not watch this video right here? And with that, I hope I'll see you in the next video.